All right, all right, all right. I think, actually, let me turn this down a bit. All right, welcome back, everybody. We're gonna be working on this again today. Thank you for joining us. And hey, what's up, Hako1337? Thanks for joining the stream. Yeah, first time chat. Nice. Turn it a tiny bit back up. All right. How's that? Is that good? Just getting configured because we're on a solid. All right, cool. Thanks for letting me know. But yeah, welcome back. Today we're just gonna be working on this painting some more. You know, same as we've been working on for the last few streams. Yeah, there was no Tuesday stream because I had a previous engagement, and then I was going to stream yesterday. But you know, sometimes you just don't feel like it. I just wanted to sleep yesterday, to be honest with you. But we're back here today, and we're going to be working on these trees down here. Hopefully, finishing that up, and then we can get to a little abstraction. And yeah, we're gonna have a good time. First things first, I am going to go grab my kneeling pillow because we're going to be working on the low part of the painting, and I'm going to be kneeling the whole time, and if I don't get this pillow, my knees hurt, so I will be right back. Watch out for a loud bang because this door sticks. There we go. All right, got my kneeling pillow, and next thing we need to do is to set up our palette. So we got our palette here, and take the plastic wrap off. As I've mentioned before, when you're working with acrylic paint, you want to try to keep it wet for as long as you can, and one way you can do that is when you're done with your paint, you just put plastic wrap over it. You can also use a Ziploc bag if you don't have plastic wrap. You can also use tin foil, you know, anything just to keep the air from getting to the paint. It won't last nearly as long as oil paint, because oil paint takes forever to actually dry, but it'll still get you what you need. So we're going to grab our paints and throw some more black on here because we used a lot of black paint last time, and we're going to grab some more white. Also, Hako1337, I appreciate the follow from way back when. You were one of my first followers when I was still trying to figure this out. I can't remember if I followed you back. If I haven't, I will follow you back right now. Because, you know, I appreciate the support. And, you know, we go way back, so... Let me see. I have it. Oh. I'm awful that way. Okay. Let's do that. Now, there, we fixed it. All right, so we got our paints together. Now we just have to grab some brushes. And actually it's warm in here, so I'm going to take off this sweater. It's been, well, the last couple of days have been a little bit unseasonably warm, but okay, so now we're just gonna grab our brush. Trying to remember which brushes we used last time. And we're just gonna dry them off. I think we used this round one, yeah. Yeah. Here we go. Okay, and the last important thing is we need to open up our reference image that I took of light shining through trees, because that's what this whole area is going to be down here. And let me lower the camera, because, you know, I want you all to be able to see this clearly. Excuse the motion sickness. I've got a very crude setup for the camera and whatnot. There we go. That's good. So, I'm going to work on this area first. So let's get our palette. Let's angle our image here. And let's get to work. So, the first thing that we're going to do is kind of pick where we want the emphasis of this light to be. So in line with this light over here, we're going to mix some white and a tiny bit of red and a tiny bit of yellow to make a nice, bright, orangish glow. We're going to start out here, and we got to pick our spot, remember, so just following the perspective. The light is going to be right about here, and we're going to kind of halo that out. And it looks like, I mean, we are covering up what we did last time, but that's okay, because we're going to add some darker leaves over top of it. This is basically like, sort of like background leaves and whatnot. That's going to be covered up by black, but it's going to be a very defined tree, you know, which this light will be shining through. So, it'll all turn out okay. Don't worry, trust me. But I hope you all are having a wonderful, wonderful night so far. It's been a very hectic week so far for me, and if it's been hectic for you too, I hope that well, this brings you some nice peace and tranquility, just hanging out, watching some paint. There we go. So yeah, we're just gonna kind of build up these colors as we move outward, like so. Try not to get too overzealous with it, but if we do, that's okay. And that's going to be our halo of light. And I know right now this doesn't look like much. It just looks like a blobby mess. But trust me, in just a little bit, you'll see exactly what it is that we're doing here. And hopefully you'll enjoy it. I'm going to add just a little bit more white there. It looks whiter on screen just because of my light right here. You know, it doesn't wash things out, but it does make things artificially brighter. Yeah, I'm just going to stretch that out. So there we go. Like if I turn this light off, you can see, well, it does still kind of look white, doesn't it? Okay. So, this is our space here. Then I'm just going to grab my my straight edge just make sure that this stays even. And we're just gonna mark out where the pavement is. Just like so. Again, this is very rough, very rudimentary. You know, we're not doing a whole boatload of detail right here. We're just kind of laying in where we want these colors, which will provide a nice baseline for our next steps. Yeah. Go and get some black and kind of darken that up as we get up toward the edges. Just like so. And again, this is just kind of rough. Okay. So, from here, I'm going to wash off our brush because we're actually going to paint a tree in front of this area. So, what do we want this tree to look like? Well, based on my reference image, it's just a pretty standard looking tree. And this is a reference image that I took just a couple of nights ago, just walking around. Actually, I'm going to give that a minute to dry. So, in the meantime, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play around a little bit more with these, this light that's going to be over here, and add just a little bit more of this darkness to these areas. Actually, first I should get some more of the white paint off that brush. There we go. But we're just going to come in here and kind of lay in all this darkness again, like we had done over here. Just like so. And again, basically what we're doing here is all these highlighted areas are going to be parts of the leaves and the trees and the bushes and everything that are highlighted by whatever various light might be around. And to give a little more contrast and depth to the darkness, because we could just paint all of this black, but then it would just look flat and unappealing, and it would look like just nothing there. Which is why we're adding all this in. There's probably going to be a bush or a tree or something here in the foreground that we'll take care of. But yeah, how's everybody else's week been? I hope you've been good. Hope you've been keeping well. This week has been kind of a reminder, for me at least, that you know, life can be fragile, and it's important to try not to take it for granted. And there's someone you love, you know, or someone you want to try and get to know better, or wish that you knew better, then there's no time like the present to let them know, and to try and get to know them better, I should say. So it's been a little bit of a sobering week in that regard, but you need times like that in your life to give you some perspective. Because, you know, that's what life is, right? You gotta try to take the good with the bad. Do some work over here. A little bit more. This black here. And we're using a technique here with the brush where we're kind of just like patting this black in rather than like actually stroking with the brush. And that is to give more of the impression that these areas are organic and, you know, kind of naturally shaped, to give the impression of like these are trees, you know. And we're kind of slowly morphing this brush into a fan brush. It started out as a straight edge brush, but that's okay. We do what we got to do to get the effect that we want. And I don't particularly like any of my fan brushes, so maybe I'll like this one. The one that I made a fan brush by accident. Fan brushes are pretty good for making clouds and trees. That's what I primarily see them being used for. We're just laying this all in, and I'm just kind of trying to brush out the texture. This light here we're going to have to do a little bit more work on because it's not actually going to be blocked by a tree. It's actually going to be out in the open. So we will have to do a little bit more work with this light here. But that's okay. Yeah, we're just kind of dabbing this paint in here. Just kind of loose with it, because we can always clean it up later, because this is just, again, kind of providing shadow, you know, to sort of heighten the depth of this area of the painting. That's basically what we're doing here. And I figure while we're waiting for this other light to dry, we might as well, you know, work around this one. Just like so. When it's all said and done, this may not have been the right brush to do this with, but like I said, it kind of turned into a different brush. And now here we are. And that's okay. Matter of fact, let me go get a bigger brush for this area down here. Again, we're just being very loose with this, very laissez-faire. As we work our way through this painting. There we go. That just about does it. Alright. So now we're going to use a combination of two brushes. One sort of a round-headed brush and one straight edge brush. And we're actually going to paint in this tree. Right over here in the foreground. So let me kind of shift the camera back this way a bit. Move it back some. There we go. Okay, I'm going to take a sip of water. Check our reference image once more, just to see what it is that we're working with. Yeah. Cool. All right. So, here we go. How are we already 26 minutes into this? Man. Okay, so this is all dry now. So now we're going to get our flathead brush and pick and decide. I just cracked my palette a little bit. That's all right. So we're going to have our tree right here. It's going to be thicker than that, but just kind of laying the groundwork for where it's going to be. Be our trunk. Yeah. And as this progresses, hopefully you will see why it's not too big of a deal that we didn't put too much detail on what these leaves in the background look like. Because as you'll see, I'm going to start putting some leaves here in the foreground. And it's going to look, again, like we're covering up most of the work that we just did. But that's the nature of painting sometimes. The important thing is we get the impression of light shining through this tree. That's what we're going for, more than anything else. And we're just kind of picking and choosing where we want these leaves to be. Just like so. And slowly but surely this is coming together. And we'll do this side. I was going to use the smaller round brush to do these leaves, but this brush is working really well. So, in the words of the great Charles Oakley, if it ain't broke, don't break it. So we're not going to break it. Yo, Jake from the woods. Thank you for the lurk. Appreciate it. Thanks for checking out the stream. We're just painting this tree in front of this light here and quoting Charles Oakley, as you do. But I appreciate you checking it out. And I know you're lurking, but I hope that your stream went well today. I really wish I could have checked it out, but I was I was helping to seal a basement floor all afternoon. So unfortunately I had to miss out on it, but I'm gonna watch the VOD later. See what I missed out on. So, there is our tree. It's not quite done yet, but it's getting there. And the whole point, again, was to just kind of have this light from the background shining through, just like so. Now this is actually very fun because anyone who doesn't know, ooh, the first team you ever used, that's kind of cool, actually. Now the thing that's kind of cool about this technique is I've literally never used this technique before. So this is a first. And I was going into this, it did not go well. Well, it's funny you mentioned that because I was worried that this technique we're using now would not go well because I've never done it before. But it actually turned out really well. So, but you know what, Jake? That's okay that it didn't turn out well. I'm sure that I will enjoy the stream regardless. As long as you had fun. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Have a good rest of your night. Okay, and down here in this black area, which I can't tilt my camera that much actually. But basically I'm just gonna put in some brush strokes that would suggest that there's also like bushes and stuff down here. You know, there's a lot of underbrush that's covering up the view of this pathway. It's basically what I'm doing here. Because this area is going to be so dark, it's all just kind of suggestive, is what I'm doing. There we go. And I think that turned out pretty well, I must say. I'm very pleased with that. Now, it looks very wet and kind of like messy right now, but that will change as the paint starts drying. Just right now it is very wet. But thankfully, again, acrylic paint dries very quickly, so we'll be able to see how this looks fairly soon. But I'm quite pleased with how that turned out, especially given that I didn't know how it was going to turn out. I was just kind of hoping for the best. So, with that, a little bit more here. There we go. So with that, we're going to wash off this brush, and then I know we're only 35 minutes in, but I'm just going to take a quick break, just a very small break, just bathroom break, and we will get right back to doing this, and we'll probably move down to this light and start, well, maybe we'll wait a minute on that because that's still a little bit tacky, but Ah, thank you for the host, Jake from the Woods. Appreciate it. But yeah, so I'm just gonna take a quick break, just go to the bathroom and everything, and then we will be right back with this painting. So let me just switch over here. All right, we are back. Okay, so like I said before the break, basically we just finished this area with the light shining in behind the tree. So now we're gonna move on to this light. So I'll move the camera a little bit so we can come over here. And once again, I'm going to consult with one of my reference images, just to make sure that we get this right, you know. I'm also going to grab a little bit more black paint, which I'm gonna have to run to the store soon and get some more paint, black paint specifically, because we are running low. There we go. Alright, so you all just enjoyed that image of the painting while I just look up this reference image. One of these days I'll get a setup where I've got like 2 cameras and you can actually see me while I'm doing stuff like this. Someday in the future. Because we're still kind of figuring things out right now. Yeah, still just kind of figuring things out. Don't mind the vacuuming. It's just my girlfriend. She's going to be leading a Zoom workout for her Dragon Boat team shortly, so you might hear her in the background. But let's just make sure that we've got this together. And I think we do. Okay. So, basically the setup for this light here is we're looking at the actual light itself, but we're also going to focus on doing more detail on the trees directly behind the light, because they're actually going to be, you know, the leaves and such are going to be reflecting that light. So we have to do some work around there. So let's get our smaller round brush, and we are going to grab some blue and some blue paint. Is this blue still good? I need to get more blue paint on this palette. The blue that I had dried out. There we go. So we got some blue paint. And we're going to shift my pillow down a bit. Yeah, there we go. Okay. That's better. Alright, so I'm going to grab some blue paint, some yellow paint, mix that together to make a nice green. And then we're going to add some white to kind of wash it out a bit, because it's going to be washed out by this light. So we're going to start with just kind of a smattering of tiny little leaves here. And a lot of this is actually going to get covered up, in a sense, but that's okay. So we're just kind of building up around this light, in behind it. And the color naturally starts to fade the further we get away from the light. In both directions. Give a little more definition to these here. And then we're using kind of the highlights that we painted earlier to kind of guide us through where the placement of these trees and these leaves are. Now, when I said this stuff is going to get covered up, it's mostly going to be these leaves here, because we don't want to distract too much from the light. But that'll come in a second. Right now we're just kind of, again, just kind of placing things, and then we'll tailor it later. You know, a lot like a resume. You know, like a resume, like you want to tailor it to each specific job that you're applying for. Well, we're doing kind of the same thing here, in terms of like, we have like, some people have like a master resume, and then they pull from that for the tailored resumes that they actually send out. That's what we're kind of doing here. We're kind of laying everything out, everything that we might want to do with this painting in terms of this space. And then we're going to pick and choose what we want to keep and kind of discard the rest in a way. And I'll show you how we do that once we get to that step, which we're getting close. Basically what we're doing right now is allowing room for mistakes. And mistakes are in the eye of the beholder, obviously, but we're allowing room for us to change our mind about things as we go along. You know, like, obviously the light isn't going to reach this up high, but there might be some leaves that have still that little bit of a color to them, you know, as we go up. And now we're going to add more white because these are really close to this light. So we're going to layer in some white paint, still with the coloring of the green. Just like so. And same on this side. Now you might notice as we're going, ooh, that's a little too light. That's way too light. Okay, this is actually, I'll show you something that you can do. If you ever put too much of a color on the painting, you can always grab a rag and just kind of dab it to get rid of that excess paint, which makes it easier to work with. Just like so. Okay. So what was I saying? Oh, yes, you might be saying to yourself, well, it seems that these trees are brighter than the light in the center. That's true. We're going to have to repaint this light. But that'll come in just a second. Like I said, we're just kind of laying everything in right now. Getting everything together. And then the next steps are going to be as follows. We're going to brighten this light and actually put a pole there so we know that it's standing there. We're probably going to put a bench right here. And we're going to better define these spaces down here in terms of what they are, because there are going to be some bushes and some like grass growing up around here and underneath the bench, right? But we're going to brighten this up. We're going to put in our bench, and then we're going to go in and add darkness around all this. We're going to go in with some black and darken all this up, like the spaces in between everything, right? But for now, that looks pretty good, I think. Yeah, that looks pretty darn good. So, we're going to wash off our brush, because again, it's important to do that, especially with acrylic paint, so that the paint doesn't dry in the brush. And this whole area isn't going to stay this green, because as you can see, nothing else in the painting is that green. So we are going to darken that. But that will come with time. So. Now let's try another experiment actually. Let's see if you can really see the disparity. Ah, yeah. When I turn this light off, you can really see the disparity between how bright this looks as opposed to how bright the actual light looks. So we're going to fix that right now. Okay. So we're going to start in the center. Naturally, and we're just going to start out by haloing out to the outside. Just brightening this up. Nice halo effect. And we are going to throw in some of these leaves and everything that are right in that halo, because they are going to be the brightest things other than the light itself. But in terms of proximity, we'll add a tiny touch of the green This is another technique that I haven't used in a very long time. So we're just trying things out. Okay? Like in terms of like haloing light and putting light in a painting, like I've done that plenty of times. But in terms of like actually putting trees around it. So there's our actual light. And we're gonna have to do that a couple of layers, just dabbing the paint in there. Because if you go over an area of acrylic paint too many times, it actually starts to wipe away the previous layer of paint. It's more than slightly annoying, but that's what happens. So we want to try to be careful to not have that happen. So there we go. That is our light. And if I do this this test again, you'll see that now. Let me not lean in there. See that now this is actually matching very, very well in terms of the brightness of the surrounding foliage. Foliage. You don't get to say that word very often. I'm just doing a little bit. A little bit more haloing above. Coming in, dabbing in a little bit more white paint. And this is pure white paint. This is nothing added to it. Pure white paint doesn't flatten out an image nearly as much as pure black paint does. I'm not quite sure why, but that's what I've always found to be the case. So, our next... What are we doing next? Ah, right. We actually have to paint in the pole. The actual light pole. So, let's get as much excess paint off of our brush as possible. Actually, let's switch over to a flat brush, because that'll be easier to paint a straight line with. Much easier. Now, where is my flat brush? That is the question. There it is. And this is the stiff one too. That's what we want. Alright. So we'll come back over here, put some white paint on our brush, and we'll use a ruler, because why not? You might as well. We'll just kind of paint this light pole in. Like so. Like that. And we're going to grab a little bit of black. And a little bit of red. And a little bit of that white, just to give some color to this pole. Actually, we'll add a little bit of yellow too. And this is just going to give some color to this lamppost that we are also going to throw in at the top very lightly. Actually, you know what? I'm going to get a smaller brush for that. So in the meantime, we'll just paint the rest of this light pole. We just kind of phase in that darker color. And we'll throw in a base. There we are. And that looks pretty good, actually. And then, like I said, I'm going to grab a smaller brush. Make a very skinny brush. Because right under this light, we want to actually make the light seem like it's attached to something. You know, it's not just floating in space. So we're going to grab the colors that we mixed together and add just a little bit more white to it. I haven't said it before in this stream, but I've said it before on stream, but I do really appreciate everyone who takes the time to, you know, come check the channel out, check out my work. I really do appreciate it. It means a great deal to me that you guys want to spend your evening watching me just, you know, mess around and have some fun. Doing something that I love doing. Kind of validating in a way. There we go. That was a little bit too bright. So let me straighten this line up a little bit. There we go. And I'll bring you guys in closer so you can see this in more detail, but I think that that turned out pretty well. Let me bring this in. So that is our lamppost. And as you can see, we got our post right in there. And that's our whole scene. So the next step is to start laying in the darker areas, you know, to make this match the tone of the rest of the painting just a little closer, you know. So for that, we're going to grab, what brush do we want? We'll use this one, another round brush. And basically this, what we're going to do is we're going to lay in areas of black and kind of like dull this all up, you know. That's what we're going to do. But I'm pleased with how this is turning out because, again, I haven't done this particular technique in a painting before either. So I'm quite pleased. But let me just check our reference image real quick just before I move on. Just to make sure I'm not making any grievous errors. Back that chair up a bit. There we go. But, yeah. Not bad, not bad. I'm debating right now actually if I should put in a bench. I'm not sure I want to actually. I don't know, we'll figure that out later. In the meantime, let's lay in these dark areas, shall we? I should mention that today's stream is being brought to you by quite the saga with new computers, because I got a new computer to actually run OBS because my previous laptop, well, it still is my laptop, it's my everyday laptop. That thing was not powerful enough to actually run any sort of streams. So I had to buy a new laptop to actually run streaming. And that laptop worked great, and we did a couple of streams on here with it. But then I discovered this before the stream, but discovered that a couple of the keys did not work in any respects. Now this particular laptop was refurbished, but I thought at the very least there would be, I don't know, some kind of testing to make sure that, you know, all the keys worked. But the keys didn't work. I tried everything, and I determined, and some professionals determined that it was a hardware issue. So I returned that computer and got another one, and thankfully this one seems to be working just fine. So we're back in business. Go. Sorry, I'm just I'm down here again. I can't tilt the camera any lower. Well, I could try, but I'm basically just playing with this part of the path to see what I can fix there. Okay. So yeah, we're just slowly but surely making our way through deciding where we want the shadows to be. Like I said, kind of darkening up this area just a bit, just defining the shadows a bit more. to make the leaves that are remaining visible stand out all the more. And we'll move up here. There we go. Yeah, this is kind of a slow work, just making our way through. Yeah, it's kind of slow and steady. Just making our way. Move back over to this side for a bit. You know, change it up, some variety. There we go. Oh, what happened to our music? I bet you, because I haven't had my settings on yet, I bet YouTube's asking me if I still want to listen to this. Yeah. That's what it was doing. Just making sure I was still here. There we go. And as you can see, we're just slowly making our way toward the center, defining where we want all the darker areas. All the parts that aren't going to be illuminated by this light. And it is slow, it is tedious, but it's worth it in the end to do it right. Of course, right is subjective. Someone else could do it a completely different way and it'll look just as good. Some leaves up here, way up high. That we're going to leave very barely illuminated. How are we doing for time? A message stuck on my watch. There we go. All right, doing pretty good. So I won't darken the area above the light too much. Just more as we move up here. There we go. There we go. And I think that looks pretty good. So I'm going to wash off my brush, and then we're just going to do a few extra details just to make this pop a little more. No, we're going to do some things to bring the realism up a little bit toward the base of the tree. Well, the base of the light pole and the surrounding trees. So let me see if I can angle this down just a bit more. Here we go. Okay. So I'm just going to take a tiny bit of white, tiniest bit, and just kind of reflect the base of this light stand. There we go. And what that's going to do is basically just give us a frame of reference as to how far this light is reaching. Just like so. Make some more of that green. We're just gonna throw a little bit down here. To make it kind of look like grass. Then we're gonna immediately grab some black and sort of counter some of that. Like so. And I think that's a pretty convincing area of light. Let me bring this in for you all, and you can be the judge. So you see there's much less of the area that is green, as you can see. And now, because we have these two areas that are highlighted by light, we can start to get rid of a little bit more of these highlighted areas in the back, especially over here where they're a lot more undefined. So I'm going to grab a larger brush and get to work on that. We're going to use a larger brush just to, make it quicker, cover more ground. we'll come back over, we'll grab our black paint. We'll start to dab this in. There's still going to be areas of light here, like the lighter background area, just to give a little bit more definition, but on the whole, we're really looking at decreasing as much of it as we can so that the emphasis is going to be on these two areas of light. Like I said, we're not getting rid of all of it. In the areas that we keep, we're actually going to touch up with the more greenish hue, reflecting the light itself. It'll be hard to judge exactly how this looks until this paint dries a little bit, because it does dry much darker than it dries much darker than how it looks. So we'll start to move this way. Okay. Move this way. And this one here, I'm just dabbing with the corner of the brush. There we go. I think that looks pretty good. Basically, again, we're just curating what areas in the background we want to have lighter than the others, and getting rid of the ones that we don't. Much like we did with the light we just worked on, with the leaves all around it. You know, basically just making decisions. Shift the camera this way a bit more. See how that's looking. It'll be a little bit clearer what it is that we're working on, as I said, as the paint dries. Like this here is almost dry. Over here is, well, I just repainted part of it, but it's close to being dry. You see, because the wet paint, what it's doing is it's like adding a little bit of a glare to the piece. So, but that's okay. While we're waiting for that to dry, I will take this opportunity just to take another break, just a minute or two, just to, you know, grab a drink, grab a tiny little snack, because my second favorite holiday-themed candy is out now. Actually, it's probably my second favorite type of candy, Christmas satin mix. So I got a bunch of that at the Bulk Barn. My favorite, by the way, is cinnamon hearts. I love cinnamon hearts. I can't get enough of cinnamon hearts. My dentist hates me because I eat so many of those freaking things. But yeah, so I'm just gonna grab a couple of pieces of candy, grab a drink of water, and we will be back in just a second. So let me throw up my be right back screen, and I'll be back with you in a minute. right, we are back. Okay, so we're going to grab a smaller brush now, and we are going to dive back into what we were doing earlier, in so much as like making a very dark green, and in this area a darker shade of like the sort of orangish glow, because these trees are going to take on more of the orangish glow because of the light, whereas this one's going to be more, you know, of the greenish color. And we are just going to go in and start filling out the spaces surrounding here with any sort of highlights where there might be some sort of tree or foliage or something like that. Like down here to below where the path is. See if I can angle that down more. Not really, but hopefully you can kind of get like down in this area here. Well, and I say it dark because like the further we go out, we're going to want a darker green or a darker hue because we're further and further away from the light. And I did not dry this brush enough. You'll discover if you work with acrylic paint, you'll discover if you didn't dry your brush enough by when you're trying to mix paint and it starts mixing sort of like watercolor, then you know you've got too much water in your brush still. So I thought I had paint on my elbow. Okay, we should be good now. So, again, let's grab some yellow. And grab some blue. Make ourselves a nice green. And then we'll introduce some white and black to kind of gray it out a bit. Make it darker as we move further out. And again, we're just kind of going to fill in the areas that we think will still be touched by light. And then if we change our mind, we'll go in and add some more black to, fix it. Just like we did before. So. But again, I hope you all are having a nice chill night. And I appreciate, again, you all taking the time to come out and watch. I really do appreciate it. Hope you're enjoying what you're seeing. All right. not looking too bad. Not looking too bad at all. There we go. And a little bit more. Just right there. There we go. All right. And now we're going to grab a little bit more yellow paint and clean off our brush and move over here. We're not quite done with this area yet. I'm just gonna let that sit for a second because sometimes one of the best things you can do for your art is just kind of sit back and see how it looks once everything's dried. As happens pretty often on with my own work, I don't always take my own advice. I've mentioned that before, but that's one thing that I could probably stand to do more often, but I don't. So we're just grabbing some more yellow paint just so we have a better deal for this area over here, because this is more of a yellowish, orangish light, and the leaves are going to reflect that. So now we're washing off our brush. And dry it off and make sure it's completely dry this time. There we go. And now we're going to come back over here and we are going to, let me angle this just a little bit more toward this area. There we go. And yeah, we're just going to do the same thing over here with a more faded orangish color. A deeper orangish color with a little bit of black mixed in to darken it up. I said a little bit of black, not a bunch. There we go. So start throwing in these little highlights of color. And this is still supposed to highlight the light shining through these trees. We're just kind of picking and choosing our spots in between the leaves that we put in for this tree that's in the foreground. You know? Just like so. There we go. So just stepping back, that looks pretty good, and then we will go back in with some black and sort of curate this a little more. And then we should have something that's pretty workable. So let me wash off my brush again. Then we'll go back in with some black. But first, for once, again, I'm gonna take my own advice, which I rarely do, and sort of step back. Just sort of take a look at what we're dealing with here. Yeah. So, grab some black paint. And we're just basically going to go over where this tree was before that we laid in. I'm just going to tighten things up a little bit. One of the hardest aspects of making any sort of art, I think it's more in music that you see this, but it happens in all sorts of art. Like, I have to do it too. Is the concept of like killing your darlings. In music, like, you'll see that all the time. Like, an artist will do like a demo tape and they'll really like it, but it just doesn't fit with the concept of the album that they're doing, or it just doesn't sound right to other people, and then they sort of have a decision to make, and the decision more often than not is to like cut the song from the project. And you kind of have to, like, one of the hardest things to do in the world is curate yourself and sort of say, like, okay, yeah, that one's not up to snuff, that one's no good, you know. And I think that doesn't happen. I mean, obviously it happens on a macro level with artists. I mean, there are plenty of artists, myself included, who have destroyed works. Either like completely destroyed them or painted over them with something else, just because we didn't like how it turned out. I've done that. But on a more micro level, it also happens to, like, just aspects of the painting that we want to keep in and then decide it's in the best interest to get rid of it, which is a lot of what this process is. You know, you paint all this stuff in, and then you step back and take a look and see what looks good, and then from there you make a decision on what you actually keep and what you discard. You know, and it can be a tough decision. It can be tough, very, very tough to do. But, you know, it's one of the more important things that you can do as an artist. One of the most important things you can do. Just doing some stuff in the foreground here again, just to give a semblance of the depth of this area. Just getting rid of some lighter areas that I thought I had gotten rid of earlier, but I didn't. Okay. Now we're going to come in here. Again, make some decisions on where these shadows are. There we go. So I think this area with this light, I think that's done now. I don't think we're going to touch that anymore. So let me take a look back here, see where we're at. Yeah, that is looking pretty good. I'll show you what I mean by what we were doing in the background here. Bring the camera in. So you saw all like the grayed out areas like over here, right? Basically what we did was we went in with more of a greenish color, right? And we went into those areas and painted in the greenish color and then got rid of a lot of the other gray areas. And then what we're left with is, you know, some bushes and stuff in the foreground here in front of the path. Then we got our pathway, which I might still do something here. I'm not sure quite what yet. But that's our light. So, zoom out a bit. It's looking pretty good. Looking pretty realistic, I think, which is good. This is just some wet paint here. As you can see, it doesn't look exactly the same because it's picking up the light. And then here's our area over here with the light behind the tree. And again, we sort of picked up this color in here and then started sort of like darkening the color as we move outwards. Same concept as we did with the with all the green leaves, but just with a different color this time. And then over here, I'm probably going to get rid of some of this, but for now, we're going to leave it. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. I got left 10 minutes. Let's move it back this way. Yeah. And I think these areas of light here will really do well to sort of complement the lights up here in all the skyscrapers and all that. And the apartment buildings, which is the first thing that we worked on. As a reminder, I'll sort of bring you around here. So yeah, we started with this one here. We still see our little, our boy there, having a little smoke at, what do we decide? Oh, 1:50 in the morning. But yeah, so we got these apartment buildings here. You know, we got some people watching TV. And this person up here is watching TV too. But yeah. And then I was looking at the the very first stream I did working on this painting, and I was working on the sky for the first part of this painting. I just want to highlight it a little bit because that first stream was a disaster. It was very choppy and laggy, and the quality wasn't there. So I'm just going to do a little tour of the sky. Yeah. A nice cloudy night. Yeah. So I think this is coming together pretty well, personally. Okay. So now, what do we want to do next? I think for the last 10 minutes, I'm going to try and sort of work on this area down here, see what else I can add to sort of liven that up a bit. I have an idea, but we'll see if it works. The beauty about paint, again, is that if it doesn't work, you can always you can always just discard that idea and paint over it. Let me drop the, there we go. If I drop the camera there, that actually works. Alright. So, I'm going to be over here in this area. So the first thing I'm going to do is grab some white. Add it in with that green that we had earlier. Just kind of touch up the tops of this a bit. Again, this might not stay the way it is, but for now I just want to make it a little bit better. It's probably not going to stay that way, but we shall see. But now we're going to go into our black. And I'm using a very small, thin brush. Actually, it's not as thin as my thinnest brush, but this should work. And we're going to try something here. First, we're going to just straighten up this line here, just like so. Painted some leaves. This actually looks more like plants, so just blobs. Okay, now we're going to try how we want to do this. Grab some white. Grab some more black, kind of gray that out a bit. Grab a little bit more black. Now we're going to go into some white, some blue, some yellow. Make a dark grassy color again. Kind of paint that in. Grab some more white. Lighten that up just a tad. Okay. And now we're just gonna grab those colors together because we got just a couple of minutes left. Yeah. So we're gonna make that green again. Add a little black to it, darken it up. Sort of throw this bush in here. With a little bit of white over top to match the highlights again. And again, this is all subject to change as time progresses. We could always change this the next time we get together. But I felt like we should inject a little bit of mystery into this painting because we have a street light behind a tree. We have another street light that's completely illuminated. But who's that guy? And why is he just laying there? Just off the path. That and other questions will be answered. Well, I don't know if they'll be answered the next session, but I think that that's going to conclude our session for today. So, again, I thank you all for joining us. It's been a lot of fun so far, and I'm very thankful that you all decided to come in and watch me, again, mess around on a canvas for a little bit, have some fun. So, next stream is going to be Sunday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Same place right here, Soul Commodore. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and we will catch you next time. So, thanks again for tuning in, and have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday. Or Tuesday. It's Thursday. Have a wonderful rest of your Thursday, and have a wonderful Friday and Saturday, and we will see you back here on Sunday. Take it easy, everybody.